So for the jungle, the pick of the patch is gonna be Hecarim, obviously, the new champion, Hecarim. I think a lot of people are hyped about this jungler. He has insane burst damage. He has good pick-off potential, high mobility. He has the ultimate for AoE fear. His first ability, unlike the PC version, you can charge it for a guaranteed crit. Lee Sin massive buffs. I don't know what Riot thought, but hey, Mr. Lee Sin, first ability buff, second ability buff, third ability buff. That's not enough. The ultimate got buffed as well. Hey, what's up guys, Darkbreaker here in today's video with a new tier list for patch 4.3c. We have the new champion Hecarim coming out next week. I have been playing him on the test server already and he's an amazing, super strong jungler. Then on top of that we have massive changes, a huge Lee Sin buff, a huge Morgana buff, big nerfs to champion like Ornn, Annie, Vladimir, even Vayne getting nerfed. And if you guys want to know how this is going to affect the meta and what champions are the best for each position, then definitely stay tuned. We're going to talk about how all these changes are going to affect the meta and how the champions are going to be rated for each tier and for each position, talking in depth about their strength and their weaknesses and why I'm rating them, whether it's S tier or C tier, etc. Hope you guys will enjoy this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let's get started. So, reminder by the way, this is my personal tier list. It's gonna be my obviously personal opinion. Just giving you an orientation about which champions are good or which champions are bad. But I think we talked about this enough, and let's get started with the Baron lane. So for the Baron lane, even though Ornn received big buffs, I think he is still one of the best solo queue Baron laners right now in the game. He is just way too good. Like, I've played a lot of times against Ornn, and he just makes the team composition so good because he's an amazing frontliner with a really good crowd control. In the 1v1 he's still very strong, and his playmaking is just fantastic in team fights. Ornn in the late game, in the team fights, he's just doing so much work. So for S+ tier, we still have Aatrox. Aatrox is an amazing bruiser with tons of sustain and a lot of damage as well. Really good in the 1v1. Then we have Akali. Akali is an amazing burst assassin. In the 1v1, she has a lot of playmaking potential. And then in team fights, she is pretty good at just assassinating the backline and just killing everyone. And obviously the changes they did on 4.3b definitely helped her out as well. Now we have Garen. Garen is probably one of the easiest Baron laners to play. It's definitely a factor why I think he is so good right now, because everyone can pretty much just play Garen. He has a lot of damage while being super tanky, and then he has the silence. If you use the silence well, it's really good in team fights to counter some champions. Then you have the ultimate to just execute opponents that are low life, and it also does true damage. And second ability gives you damage reduction, which is really good. Now we have Gwen. I know Gwen is not being played that often, but Gwen is in fact very strong in the right hands because she's an amazing counter to tank compositions. This tier list is obviously from a challenger position, by the way. So if I see champions or how they're performing in challenger elo, that's how I'm rating them. Or like how I can give you an example. Challenger elo or high elo, there are a lot of tanky compositions with a lot of crowd control and like high mobility champions. While in lower ranks, it's like a clown fiesta. In lower ranks, there are like champions like Hecarim, Marshvll, Evelyn that are shining, for example. While Gwen is a champion that's just an amazing counter to tanky champions because of her true damage. And I mean, late game she does tons of damage, she has true damage as well, and she has tons of sustain on top of that. Now next one's going to be Camille. Camille is an amazing split pusher, great duelist as well, has true damage, has great poking damage with the second ability, has a lot of mobility thanks to the third ability, and the ultimate allows you to lock down opponents and catch them. Now Gragas is still very strong in my opinion. He's super versatile. You can go him for a hybrid build, full AP build, or tanky build. He has a lot of playmaking potential with the third ability and with the ultimate. Even though Vladimir got nerfed, they nerfed his healing. I think they nerfed the healing and the ultimate. Healing, second ability, and even third ability if I'm not looking wrong. But yeah, they nerfed Vladimir a lot. But even though they nerfed him a lot, his kit is just so strong. He is very safe in the Baron lane. He scales super hard, and in the late game he does tons of damage while having tons of sustain at the same time. And obviously the pool for self-peel / survivability. Now we have Fiora. Fiora is, in my opinion, still a very strong bruiser / split pusher and duelist. One of the strongest duelists, but she's very hard to play. High skill ceiling, and especially in team fights, she is super hard to make work. High risk, high reward champion, I would say. In the right hands, Fiora can obviously dominate the lane and shine, but if she's not dominating, she has a hard time to snowball and carry the game when the lane opponent is not completely inting it. So Fiora, in my opinion, S tier because her team fighting and her carry potential aren't as easy or aren't as great as other champions. I think mainly because it's really hard to make Fiora work when there's so much Clown Fiesta going on in team fights. Wait a second. Next one is gonna be Riven. Riven is a high mobility assassin with tons of damage, but she also requires a lot of skill, and she also requires good matchup knowledge. Now for Jace. Jace is an amazing laner with good poking damage. Swain is a champion with a lot of crowd control and really good late game scaling. Is tanky, does a lot of damage, and has just really good crowd control. Third ability, second ability. Now for Shen. Shen is an amazing teamfight orientated champion with his ultimate, but he can also split push thanks to his ultimate. So overall he is providing a lot of teamfight value, but at the same time, since he's a tank, he kinda needs good teammates to play around with, because I mean obviously if you use the ultimate for someone and he's just dying immediately, then it's kinda wasted. And then you're also getting outscaled by a lot of other Divine Thunder or Hullbreaker champions or true damage champions in the late game. I just realized something. Jax is missing. Why did I forget Jax here? Jax, S plus tier. Jax S plus tier, one of the best split pushers in the game, with a Hullbreaker, really good at just like he's one of the best late game scaling champions, and you just sieges turrets so quickly. So if you know how to split push, Jax is probably, out of all the split pushers I've named, he's the easiest to make the split push strategy work, because if opponents are moving towards a team fight and you're left alone, you can take or punish the opponent so quickly by taking turrets, since Jax is probably the best turret sieger in the Baron lane. Now we have Darius. Darius is a strong juggernaut with good carry potential, has good damage, has good sustain, is kinda tanky as well, but his problem is getting kited. Then we have Sett. Sett is a good frontliner with good playmaking potential, and he has true damage as well thanks to the second ability. Overall he's strong in the lane as well, but as I said, same problem as Darius with the getting kited or not being able to reach them, because you have to reach them to use ultimate or third ability and then go in, and then you also need follow-up because you can't solo carry a team fight. Now we have Renekton. Renekton is very solid overall at everything. Like, he's a great duelist, has great laning phase, he's tanky in team fights, he has good mobility thanks to his double dash, then he has a stun lock as well on the second ability, so overall very solid, but he falls off in the late game. That's a problem. In the late game, Renekton falls off. He's the strongest in the early mid game or mid late, but not late game. Late game he's falling off in comparison to other champions. Now we have Dr. Mundo. Dr. Mundo's honestly a solid laner, surprisingly. He's very tanky as well and a good meat shit in team fights. Malphite is very similar. He's a great counter against physical damage compositions. He has an amazing ultimate as his playmaking tool, but he's getting outscaled by split pushers and 2 damage champions, so that's the problem. So he's a champion that wants to force team fights and win those team fights. But if you don't, like, let's say, hey, I'm Malphite, I'm joining the Dragon team fight, level at minute 5, and Jax is alone split pushing, or Camille is alone split pushing. So Camille is gonna get the turret, right? And if we don't win the Dragon team fight, or let's say I'm landing a nice ultimate, but my teammates are shit, we are still gonna lose the Dragon team fight, and the Jax is getting more than 1000 gold by getting the wave, getting the turret, getting the platings. At this point, you're just falling behind, and you can't do anything later on in the mid-late game to defend the split push. And then every time they're split pushing, you can't even roam, because if you're roaming, you're losing the turret. And this also requires for, I mean, this also applies for other tanks when I'm talking about tanks. Next one is going to be Sion. Sion is honestly a really good split push and teamfight champion, depending on how you want to play him, or you can also play him both ways, like split pushing and then using the ultimate to join the teamfight. He's tanky, has good crowd control, and has good meat shield overall. And can apply really good pressure onto the side lane with his suicide boss playstyle. Then we have Wukong. Wukong is a great duelist with a lot of sustain, and on top of that, his ultimate is an amazing, engaging playmaking tool in teamfights, since he can knock everyone up. Now Hecarim. I honestly haven't tried Hecarim in the Baron lane, but fun fact, Hecarim's first ability can crit, guaranteed now, if you're charging it. And I think you can run him with like Black Cleaver, Divine Sandra. He has a lot of sustain. His first ability, if you're running Omnivamp Conqueror or something, you can get a lot of healing from his first ability, because his first ability applies or works with the Omnivamp / Lifesteal as well. And then on top of that, second ability gives him healing, first ability can potentially give him healing as well. With Divine Sandra and Black Cleaver, I think he can definitely be a decent bruiser. Then he can rotate with the third ability very quickly from the top side, and then he flanks with the ultimate, so I can definitely see him being around like A or B tier. So my prediction, for you guys wondering, Darkbreaker, you haven't played him yet. I have played Hecarim. I understand this kid, and I can see his potential. So therefore, I'm predicting that he is gonna be around A or B tier for the Baron lane, with like a bruiser build, not lethality, bruiser build. Let's say Black Cleaver, Divine Thunderer, or Divine Thunderer into Black Cleaver, then maybe a Death Dance, Dark Scage, Twin Guard, a very tanky build that allows him to lane against other bruisers, and then also just using the third ability coming from the top lane, to the dragon, flank onto the backline, boom, initiate. I can definitely see him being very similar to like a Sion. Not as tanky, but more damage orientated, but he has also good playmaking with the ultimate and the third ability. Third ability pushing someone from the backline into your teammates, and then using the ultimate you can fear all the opponents. Definitely can be a good Baron laner. Just mark my words. Just mark my words. I was also right with the Vladimir prediction, by the way. For you guys always saying, why are you doing this? I was right with the Vladimir prediction when I said he's gonna be broken. And it's not that hard, by the way, because Riot tends to release new champions broken, and honestly Hecarim's kit in the jungle is just really fantastic. We're gonna talk about it in a bit, but I think Hecarim full lethality is gonna be very, very promising. He's like a Rammus with like one-shot potential, so let's talk about Teemo next. Teemo got buffed. They buffed his passive, they buffed the second ability, and they buffed the ultimate. It allows him for better kiting, better late game, and also the passive obviously in the late game is going to do more damage, but the problem is still going to be that his early game is obviously very fantastic. He's an amazing lane bully against melee champions. In the mid game he kind of falls off if he doesn't snowball, because the lane opponent is going to outscale him starting level 5, and they can all in on him and kill him. So that's one of the problems. What do I think is the problem about Teemo? He's very squishy, and it's hard for him to escape all-ins from the opponents, or lane ganks as well, or like ganks in general. And then in the late game, if he has full item and he can set up shrooms, yes, that's when he's shining, or he's like going the guerrilla tactic, coming out of the brush, poking someone, going back, in and out, in and out. Yeah, I mean, I think Teemo is still A tier. I think he's not strong enough to be S tier, because the weaknesses didn't get improved. Obviously he's better now, but he he still struggles against a lot of champions in the mid game, and that's the fundamental problem, that he is a champion that is just gonna die 1v1, even if you're getting like 2-0 or 3-0 lead. The moment a champion is like level 8, they have like one core item, they probably still beat up the Teemo because he's so squishy. Then we have Yone. Yone is an amazing late game champion, but as you guys can figure out, he is a late game champion. He needs a lot of items and he needs to scale, and in the Baron lane he also has a lot of hard matchups. Zed on the other hand is a strong assassin, high skill ceiling, but also very matchup reliant, that you don't want to pick him into champions that can stack up armor like bruisers, juggernauts, or like straight up tanks. It can be hard for Zed. You want to pick him into like more squishy champions, maybe against a Gwen, maybe against a Gragas that's going full AP, probably playable against like Fiora as well, stuff like that. Or you're picking him into range ADC top lane to punish them. But yeah, he can be a good split pusher, and he can be good in the assassin, obviously. Then we have Diana. Diana, I would say, has a lot of hard matchups, or where she probably can't win the 1v1, but she's amazing in team fights and has high mobility. Now we have Cannon. Cannon has kind of the same problem as Teemo, but he is very good in the team fights thanks to his ultimate. Strong lane bully, easy to punish though, and very squishy. Now we have Akshan. Akshan got buffed in the last patch. He's still very strong in my opinion against some melee champions as counter, but obviously he's a range champion that is squishy and can be punished. I should move the Vayne, by the way. Vayne is weaker now. They nerfed Vayne. I forgot to move her in the Baron lane. Let's move on to Aurelia. Aurelia, in my opinion, is a strong assassin that is very snowball reliant though, and requires a lot of skill plus matchup knowledge, because there are a lot of hard matchups for Aurelia that you need to understand how to make Aurelia work against, like, let's say Jax, for example. Jax is a hard matchup. Like, there are a lot of hard matchups for Aurelia to make her work, and then she needs to snowball and get some kills in the early game so she can continue her snowball and then just keep jumping onto people, having a lot of sustain and burst damage. Pantheon is in this regard pretty similar. I think I wanted to move him, right? But I'm just gonna keep him like this. Pantheon can be good because he's a strong 1v1 lane bully in the early game, but the downside is if you don't snowball, he will get outscaled and he becomes shit, and even if you're snowballing, he becomes shit at the point because he falls off in the mid and late game pretty damn quickly. Like, his early game starts like this, he's so strong, and then it slowly goes like da 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 da, and then boom, completely falls off. That's Pantheon. Oh, that's the curse of Pantheon players. Now we have Vladimir. Vladimir is a champion that can work against champions that don't burst him too quickly and that allow him to stack up his passive and allow him to trade. So Vladimir is probably good against tanks thanks to his Divine Thunder and his percentage damage. So Vladimir against tanks can be good. Vladimir against true damage, split pushers, probably a hard matchup. But he is a decent frontliner with good engage and stun. Then we have Jhin. Jhin, I think, is a solid pick. He can hold the lane pretty well and he's amazing in team fights, but that's about it. You can cheese someone potentially in the early game by just keep poking them. Like, either you're running... I mean, you have so many variations. You can run Conqueror, you can run Grasp, you can run Ahri. I think some people would... I think I might just run Ahri on Jhin, poking them with the... third ability Q poke, and then the passive, every time passive, then back off, passive EQ out, something like that, or EQ poke. I think he's okay, but at the end of the day, he's not gonna be a hard carry in comparison to other champions, and he's gonna lose against a lot of champions where he just can't kill them and they're just gonna kill him. Let's say he will never beat the Jax, Camille, Aatrox, probably Darius not. That probably also not. I mean, he has a lot of matchups where he can lane even, or he can just clear the wave, be fine, and then try to join team fights. And he is obviously good initiator, but that's about it. Urgot is strong in the early game, falls off a little bit in the mid game, and then in the... Or should I say, before till level 5 he's strong, and then between level 5 and like 9 he's kind of falling off, and then later on he becomes strong again. He has good playmaking in team fights, he's tanky, lane bully. But yeah, he fought off against a lot of champions. Same, like that's kind of the common occurrence for him against split pushers with Divine Thunder or True Damage. But he's a great counter to tanks, thanks to his percentage damage on the passive. Next one is gonna be Kassadin. Kassadin is a strong late game champion, but he's very scaling, or too scaling in the Baron lane, I would say. Next one is gonna be Singed. Singed is pretty weak in the early game, but can be good in team fights in the late game, good playmaking potential. Trinagma got buffed. Between B or A. Between B or A. He has really good sustain now, or he has easy access to sustain. So it's easier for him to lane without dying. You could run like Fleet, honestly. If you wanna run a very safe laning build, you can run Fleet. And if not, you just run Lethal Tempo. The problem is his early game is not that good. He has a lot of hard matchups. He's a one-dimensional champion that is struggling against a lot of team compositions. But if he's snowballing in low elo, he's just running everyone down. So that's his advantage. He's very strong in low elo. But I wouldn't recommend picking Trinagma in high elo. Like where people know how to kite. Okay, people don't know that, but some people know that. Against tank, like I think in high elo there's just so many compositions where it's very hard for him to play. Like either they have too much mobility, or they're too tanky, and they have too much core control. So that's the weakness. And he's very scaling. He needs like 3+ items to be strong. Tank Yasuo! Tank Yasuo! Yasuo is not bad. In the Baron lane, he has a lot of hard matchups though. I think he's in mid lane way better. He's very scaling, needs like 3+ items, and most of the times, if you see a tank, if you see a Yasuo in the Baron lane, he's gonna be an Inter because Yasuo has so many bad matchups. Lucian and Vayne, I'm gonna summarize them together. They can be amazing hard counters against some elite champions, but at the same time, they are also very easy to punish because they don't have that much mobility. In the solo lane to escape because the lane is so long. If they're overextended, it's easy to catch them, and they're squishy at the same time, so it's easy to punish them. Then Lilia is scaling, too scaling. Olaf is too cheesy. Like either it's a coin flip. Like he's a very situational champion. You want to pick him into core control. You want to pick him when the opponents are tanky, and you want to cheese the lane opponent. Best case, pre-level 5, get like 1 kill, and then you can just zone and bully him. But at the same time, if you don't get that, you're kind of falling off, and most of the times you're gonna end up losing the 1v1 later on. Warwick, also very cheesy. Can be good though with a sustain if the opponent doesn't have sustain or can burst him down quick enough. Grace to scaling, Nasus also to scaling. Nasus just weak or loses against most champions and is to scaling. Then we have Kayle, squishy, easy to punish, weak in the early game, to scaling, but very scaling. Like a Nasus, it's not that easy to dive level 5 because he has the ultimate, he's a little bit tanky. If he goes like Tabai, Brahma Vest, and then maybe a Thunderer, it's gonna be tanky and hard to dive. But the Kayle is free kill no matter what. But yeah, that's great for the Baron lane. Let's hop right into the jungle. So for the jungle, the pick of the patch is gonna be Hecarim, obviously, the new champion, Hecarim. I think a lot of people are hyped about this jungler. He has insane burst damage. He has good pickup potential, high mobility. He has the ultimate for AoE fear. His first ability, unlike the PC version, you can charge it for a guaranteed crit on Hecarim. Potentially Hecarim Infinity Edge build, like full lethality and then last item Infinity Edge just one-shotting people. So that's the potential of running Hecarim. He is like Rammus, minus the fact that he is more mobile than the nerfed Rammus now. Then he has more damage, he has better jungle clear speed, like his jungle clear speed is really good. And I've played him like twice and I can say his damage numbers are really good actually. especially since you can charge his first ability doing crit damage. Jungle clear is good, high mobility. It's just gonna... I think the biggest advantage of him is having high mobility and good jungle clear speed. That means he can just clear and then gank, spam ganking. He's just gonna spam gank similar to like a Lee Sin, high tempo. And then he's just gonna one-shot flanking people. Like, he comes from behind, pushes you towards the opponent, or in teamfights as well, and then he has the ultimate that can fear multiple people at this at once at the same time. So Hecarim actually very, very strong in my opinion. You guys will see. Just see at release. I know majority of wildrift players are probably gonna indulge him, but he is gonna be very strong. Like, once people figured out how to play him correctly in the jungle. So make sure to stay tuned when I'm gonna become a Hecarim one-trick pony. Now next one is Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix is the champion I'm abusing in Challenger Elo. I think he is one of the most consistent and best assassins to hyper carry games, even if you have bad teammates, because he farms after level 5, he farms like a truck. He has good objective controls thanks to his isolation damage. He can one-shot people super easily thanks to his isolation damage, and then he can just pick them off one by one. He has high mobility thanks to his third ability jump reset. Then he has stealth as well, just catching people off guard. What else? You can invade people 1v1 and just screw over the enemy jungler. 1v1, if you're ambushing in the brush, Kha'Zix wins almost every duel. So that's the strength of him. And then in the late game, even if your allies are entering, if you reach at Kha'Zix level 13 plus, you get the third evolve and you get like the second ability. You can just, if you power farmed well enough, you can just chunk the opponents down with the second ability over and over when they're doing an objective, and then you're trying to pick them off one by one. So Kha'Zix has amazing carry potential. Even against, I've played him so many times, even against tanky compositions you can make it work. Like going full lethality against full tank composition still works, by the way. Just because he outfarms so hard that even if they're stacking armor, you already have the Serida or the Mortal Reminder doing tons of damage. So that's the advantage, and usually they have like one or two squishies still, and if you just pick them off, you just create a man advantage, and then you can still carry the team fights. And obviously objective control, if you have like 3 dragons, or if you got all of the objectives, then you're still probably gonna end up winning, even if they have a tanky composition. Now Lee Sin. Lee Sin, massive buffs. I don't know what Riot thought, but hey, Mr. Lee Sin, first ability buff, second ability buff, third ability buff. That's not enough. The ultimate got buffed as well. Lee Sin, high, fast tempo jungler, spam ganking, doing tons of damage, one-shotting people. The weakness, I would say, is in high elo, where he's not as popular as he used to be, is that there are a lot of tanky crowd control compositions. But even in that case, you can run a bruiser build with like Black Cleaver, Divine Thunderer, building tanky, and just looking for playmaking potential with the kicks to like kick 3 or 4 people at the same time, knocking them up. But yeah, he's a fast tempo jungler that can just spam gank, invade, high mobility, and he just one-shots you. Lee Sin in the right hands is just snowballing on the whole map, creating so much pressure, and he's just the fastest jungler, I would say, like in terms of like spam ganking left and right, bam bam bam. Within 1 minute he's ganking 3 lanes. So that's the thing about Lee Sin, and how he's dominating in the right hands in low elo very easily, and even in high elo he's very strong. Now we have Morgana. Morgana actually a hidden gem. I think she's underrated, and she's very, very good in the current meta right now. There are a lot of tanky compositions, or like a lot of engaged compositions, and Morgana is excellent at countering them, thanks to her poking damage and thanks to her crowd control to kite them out. And then percentage damage from the Liandry, she's just shredding through tanks as well. And obviously she has really good poking damage, crowd control, and the ultimate in team fights. Plus her jungle clear is so fast right now. If you are good at double camping, her jungle clear is so fast because the second ability got buffed. In the early game, almost 50% more damage at level 1. So her first rotation jungle clear is so fast right now. And yeah, that's why I'm a fan of Morgana in high elo. I think the S+ tier is... I mean... Yeah, I think just in Challenger Elo, like in High Elo, Morgana is definitely S+ right now. I'm not sure about lower ranks, but I think in lower ranks you can just make it work just as fine. Just farming up, poking them down. And obviously she's amazing in teamfights as well. Now we have Kayn. I don't know why they didn't nerf Kayn yet. He can be inconsistent, but when he reaches the blue form, he has the mana moon stacked up, he's just one-shotting everyone. He's a bit inconsistent, but when he's snowballing, it's over. When the Kayn blue form is snowballing, pop, 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 one shot, pop, 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 one shot, too much mobility, you can't do anything about it. Evelynn also very strong stealth champion that is just one-shotting, snowballing everywhere. Same for Twitch as well. Twitch in the late game is probably one of the real 1vs9 hyper carries. Like, you can just kill everyone in the late game, just bursting them down with your true damage. In the early game, he's very cheesy, just spam ganking with his stealth left and right, and usually it works because people don't know how to lane safe. And then in the late game, when he has like 3-4 items, if they don't hit you and you can freely use your ultimate on everyone and you just wipe 5 people at the same time. Like, let's say they're starting an objective, you find the right angle to hit everyone at the same time, you just win. Like, even if you're behind, Twitch can carry games so hard. Next one is gonna be Diana. Diana is a high mobility assassin with tons of burst damage and really good team fighting. She's one of my favorite junglers right now. I think when it comes down to my favorite junglers, it's probably going to be Kha'Zix right now, then Diana, then Morgana, then Hecarim. Kayn, kind of inconsistent, that's why I'm not a fan of him, but I mean, he can be very good, obviously, once he has the blue form and he's stacked up. Now Aatrox as well is an amazing bruiser with tons of damage and crowd control and tanky as well, and has a lot of damage. Aatrox can also be very good, and he's probably one of the most favorite junglers in China as well. Now, I've put down Yone and Gragas because I just feel like Yone is a bit too scaling and Gragas is... I'm not sure. I haven't been able to find as much success on Gragas as I used to, and I'm not sure about the reasoning. I mean, he's a great poking champion, good playmaking, but I'm just not sure. Maybe I'm just a bad Gragas, but I'm rating him S2 because I feel like he's not as popular anymore in the jungle, and he doesn't hard carry as hard as he used to. Maybe because people are too tanky or he doesn't burst them hard enough. Not sure. But the honestly is very good. He has very high win rate across the board in China as well. But I mean, SC is also a solid rating. And for Yone, he's just too scaling. Obviously in the late game, he's insanely good. Fizz in this meta is actually really good. Because he can block stuns or like crowd control with a third witty dodging it, and then he just one-shots people. Once he has 3 items, like he's just one-shotting everyone. So he's amazing at countering champions like Lux and Annie, like dodging the bind or dodging the ultimate and then just one-shotting them. But obviously in the early game he's kind of slow pace, but 3 items is really good right now. Jarvan full lethality or Jarvan bruiser is really good. High fast tempo jungler that can spam gang left and right. Good burst damage depending on how you want to play him. Lethality or tanky. Good playmaking overall, and obviously the ultimate in teamfights is amazing. Riven high mobility burst damage. Jace really good burst damage, and he's just a strong jungler that does tons of damage and can snowball very easily. Same for Pantheon right now, just spam ganking left and right, really good burst damage, kind of pot up in the late game, but with a first strike build going full crit, you can definitely snowball in one shot to a certain degree, even in the mid and late game. Volibear, a very teamfight orientated champion. I mean, overall his jungle is very good. He's great frontliner and great engager, but he's kind of team reliant. Shyvana is a great power farmer that is kind of scaling, but once she has like 400 stacks and has all of her abilities evolved, she can hyper carry games really good in the late game. Vi, I think Vi is a very teamfight orientated champion as well. Good jungle clear speed, good in teamfights, and her ultimate is obviously amazing to catch people. but kind of team reliant. Same for Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao is very similar to Vi, a strong bruiser that has good damage, is tanky, but I feel like he's not as good as a hyper carry in late game, or if you have like 1 or 2 bad teammates. Olaf is a very situational pick in my opinion, that he needs the right team comp to work, like against tanky champions, against melee champions, not against high mobility champions where you're getting kited. So very situational, but has a lot of sustain and true damage as well. Wukong is also a pretty team fight and team comp reliant champion. You need good teammates to make him work. He's good sustain, good in team fights thanks to his ultimate as well. Shen, decent jungle kill speed, obviously playmaking with the taunt. The ultimate can be good to counter gank. Overall solid jungler. Amumu is amazing in team fights thanks to his ultimate. Remus is a good high tempo jungler that can spam left and right and is a great counter to physical damage compositions. Dr. Mundo is a great frontliner that does decent amount of damage and his jungle is decent as well. Nunu is also a high tempo jungler that wants to spam gang left and right, has a lot of crowd control and is amazing frontliner as well. Now with Fiora, I think Fiora is amazing in early game skirmishes, but her team fighting is obviously not that good and pretty snowball reliant. Gwen, slow pace, but I already explained that she has true damage and is a strong hyper carry in the late game. Camille also kind of slow paced in the early game, but can be very good thanks to her guaranteed kill ultimate. You use ultimate, you can get a guaranteed kill. Zed in the right hands can be pretty good thanks to his diving potential as a jungler with the ultimate. Good spear pusher as well and great assassin to one-shot people in the backline. Akshan, a cheesy jungler that can... I mean, honestly, he's very similar to a Twitch where you're using the stealth to cheese and spam gank. And also as a crit based champion, he's gonna be strong in the late game. Aurelia, snowball reliant champion that obviously has a lot of playmaking potential and can burst people. Darius, decent ganking potential thanks to the third ability, works the best against melee champions, very similar to Olaf, and good carry potential with the Noxus Might ultimate combo reset. Then Urgot is very strong in the early game, is a grand frontliner and playmaker and teamfights as well. Renekton, decent at everything but nothing too special. Then we have Rengar, kind of coin flip champion, hit or miss. Either he's snowballing and he's just one-shotting everyone, or he doesn't snowball, he plays against a bad team comp and he can't do anything. Neela has a lot of sustain, but her jungle tempo is not that good and there are a lot of hard matchups, plus she needs like an initiator. Like without a tank as a Neela, it's very hard to make her work. Graves is too scaling, but overall when he has like 3 items he can be very good obviously. Yasuo is a champion that is pretty scaling, but in the right team comp he can shine. Lilia also very scaling, but against the right team comp, in this case against like melee or tanky champions, she can be very good. Then we have Kayle just AFK farms and just... I mean, the thing about Kayle jungle is why it's good is because she can just focus on farming safely in the jungle, scales herself to, or tries to scale, and then in the late game she carries. Nautilus is a decent jungler with good ganks. Master Yi, a very snowball reliant champion, kind of coin flip. Either like he's very good in low elo where when you're getting a reset you're just running people down. Echo to scaling in my opinion, but once he has like 3 items he can be pretty good. Pyke jungle, in the right hands you can still make him work as a spam ganker, very similar to a Lee Sin, but his jungle clear is obviously very bad. Singed, a cheesy champion, good playmaking potential though to catch people, but obviously his jungle clear is not that good. Warwick in my opinion is dog shit in teamfights. Tryndamere is too scaling and very bad in teamfights. Jax is also too scaling, but obviously he's a late game hyper carry. But that's it for the jungle. Okay, let's move on to mid lane. For mid lane, I think it's gonna be Akali, pick of the patch. Akali has been a powerhouse in the mid lane, amazing assassin. the buff they did in the previous patch allows her to be so strong in the early game. In teamfights, she's just one-shotting everyone, and this stealth, the Shroud, is so good in teamfights, especially in lower rank. If you are a proficient Akali, you can carry games very easy as Akali. Ahri got buffed, and I think she is pretty damn strong right now. I faced yesterday a player that was using Proto Build with Ahri. You can just double dash super quickly with your ultimate and charm someone, pick them up, bam, one-shot it, dash back out. And you can just keep repeating that. She's an amazing high mobility assassin with good catch potential, and if you catch someone, 5 vs 4 before teamfight. You catch someone before Eldar, 5 vs 4 before teamfight, you're probably gonna win the game. You catch someone before Baron, same thing. It's very hard to kill Ahri as well, because she has so much mobility. So overall, more healing now, then the mobility is just so strong for an assassin, and her ambush potential. You can't check a brush. If you don't have vision and Ahri is camping in the brush, you're one-shotted. Vladimir, even though he's nerfed, he's still S+ in my opinion. A lot of sustain, a lot of damage. Annie got nerfed, massive nerf, but I still think she is very, very good thanks to her double ultimate. I mean, she still has a lot of sustain, a lot of burst damage. Obviously, the nerfs are gonna hurt her. She's not gonna be super duper giga broken, but she's still very, very strong. Lux. I mean, Lux has good shielding, good poke damage, good catch potential. The bind is super annoying, and then the global ultimate. Karma has insane poke damage, then she has the AoE shield, then she has the root, an amazing ultimate as well. Akshan, one of the strongest lane bullies in the mid lane, that can rotate left and right to snowball. Diana, high mobility assassin. Kassadin, one of the strongest late game champion to one-shot people with high mobility. Katarina, especially in lower ranks, I'm telling you. Below Master, Katarina is a must-ban champion, because it's a clown fiesta. It's a big, massive clown fiesta. She gets one kill, she kills everyone every single time. Every single time in lower ranks, Katarina is 20 kills. She's probably, like, if I had to make a tier list for lower ranks only, Katarina would be one of the most broken champions for sure. Disgusting. I hate playing against Katarina in lower ranks. She is super good, even though some people will say, no, she's not that good. Nah, she's very good in lower ranks. And even high-low, you can make her work. Like, one reset, you still win the game. And even in higher ranks, there's Clown Fiesta. But the amount of Clown Fiesta you have in lower ranks, that's next level. So, below Master, Katarina, God tier pick. Now we have Yone. Yone is one of the strongest late game champions. High burst damage, really good in the 1v1 as well. Zed is an amazing assassin, super strong. 1v1, Twisted Fate, first strike. Plus third ability gives him so much gold. He has really good map control with the ultimate to just gank left and right. And then he has really good pick-off potential with the gold rapid fire. Like, rapid fire allows him to have more range on his gold card. So from miles away, he's throwing portable gold card, boom. You're getting one-shotted, getting caught. So Twisted Fate is amazing. Map control champions that can ambush people and catch them off guard in the right hands. So you need to have brain to pick him. Then we have Corki, really good poke damage and amazing in team fights. Zoe, still amazing poking champion, really good burst damage, but not as strong as beforehand. Swain, good utility poking mage, really tanky in teamfights as well. Yasuo in the right hands is really strong right now. Kinda team comp reliant because he needs some knockups, but overall in the late game he is a menace, does tons of damage, is hard to kill, high mobility. Vex is an amazing assassin with fear mechanic. Then we have Orianna and Ziggs that are strong utility teamfight poking mages. In the right team comp they can shine. Fizz is an amazing assassin, but kinda weak in the early game against some ranged champions that are gonna poke him down, but obviously level 5 he can try to pick them off, and then once he has like 3 items, he's snowballing, just one-shotting people. Gragas is a solid poking mage with good playmaking potential. Galio is a strong utility poking mage with good playmaking. He has the AoE taunt, he has knock up, he has the ultimate to join team fights. Lucian, strong lane volley with high mobility. Aurelia, strong assassin but snowball reliant, but obviously in the right hands you can snowball and just go for the 1v1 against those mages. Then we have Vega, squishy, bad roamer but strong crowd control, utility in team fights, plus really good late game burst damage. Jace, strong lane volley, really good burst damage, Riven high mobility, burst damage, and she is very good in the 1v1 as well. I need to move Pyke down, I forgot, guys. Pyke 8 here. Why Pyke 8 here? Because you can still make him work. His wave clear is worse though, but you can still make him work if you are good on him. He has really good playmaking potential, like roaming left and right, but his wave clear is goddamn awful right now. Neela, wait, why do I have Neela in the mid lane? I think because I've seen some Neela mid lane players doing fine, because she actually can do really solid in the 1v1 and her teamfight is amazing, plus she has a lot of sustain plus shielding. Echo, too slow paced in the early game, very easy to punish, but obviously very strong late game scaling champion that can one-shot people and AoE stun. Then we have Morgana. The second ability buff actually allows her to clear the wave easier in the early game, so she can rotate better. Yeah, she's a good utility poking mage. Then we have Aurelion Sol. Aurelion Sol in the right hands is actually disgusting. There's one Aurelion Sol one-trick pony in Challenger Elo that is really good. But I think... I mean, he's hard to play, to be fair, because in the 1v1 he's not that good, but if you can roam and spam gang left and right, you can dominate and snowball the game, very similar to an Akshan. And then in teamfights, when you're hitting the star, you can stun everyone. He can be very, very good. Like, you don't want to start an objective against Aurelion Sol, because he can just absolutely wipe everyone in that teamfight, stunning them all, doing tons of damage. When it's to scaling, overall very good in the late game though. Brand, good poking damage, but... he has a lot of hard matchups and he can really roam. Singe is good in the mid lane because he can just clear the wave and then just try to rotate between the lanes and try to pick off people and go for early skirmishes. And obviously in the team fights he's scaling very good and he has good pick-off potential as well. Garen is over a solid laner, very good against melee champions. Cannon is kind of weak in the early game and doesn't have the greatest wave clear, but in team fights he can be amazing. Mid Kai'Sa actually still viable, because she has really good poking damage and is solid in the 1v1, but as an ADC, she obviously has the weakness that she can be punished by the enemy jungler. Pantheon is, in my opinion, a champion that is not that bad in the mid lane, but the Pantheon players are pretty damn horrible. So I don't like to see Pantheon in the lane. In the jungle, I think he's very good, but in the lane, I kind of don't like them because they're always losing the 1v1 and then the game is over. Because Pantheon needs to snowball, he needs to rotate, he needs to use the ultimate and gank left and right, but if he can't do that, he's kind of minion. Kayle, kinda minion, but she scaled way better in the mid lane than in the Baron lane, and then in the late game she can be a truck. Same for Lilia, weak in the early game but strong in the late game, but needs the right team comp. Seraphine, a good Seraphine ultimate can be a game changer in team fights. She's weak in the early game, she has a lot of hard matchups, but into the right team comp, when you have frontline and you land a good ultimate, she can be very good. But let's move on to ADCs. Let's move on to ADCs. Pick of the patch for ADC is still Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa, guess why? She's disgusting. Her AP hybrid build with Mana Immune gives her so much damage. She has the burst damage of an assassin on her first ability in a 1v1. She has amazing poking damage on the second ability. Third ability grants her attack speed plus stealth to reposition. Then she has the ultimate to reposition that is granting her a huge shield. She's just strong in the early game, strong at every stage of the game, honestly. I mean, there are some stronger champions in the early game, but she's obviously not a weak champion like a Vayne or like a Jinx in the early game. Ezreal, high mobility, late game poking monster. Lucian, high mobility, very strong in the early game, has a really good burst damage as well. Corki is amazing in team fight with the package, has a really good poking damage as well. Even though Jhin got nerfed, he's still very good. His burst damage is nuts, by the way. His burst damage is just nuts. Like, his one-shot potential, like, usually Jhin is dominating from the get-go with the first strike in the early game. He accumulates a lot of gold, and then he's just one-shotting everyone. The other day I got two-shotted. Like, out of the queue, I got two-shotted. I was like, how? How am I, like, I have armor and still getting one-shotted. So Jhin in the right hands is gonna dominate in the early game, and transitions that lead into more gold, snowballing left and right, and ADC, I mean, you guys know it by now, better ADC wins the game. Better, the most significant role right now is ADC in this meta. Better ADC wins the game most of the times. If you are, like, games are always gonna go into the late game, right? And if you are the hyper carry as ADC, you will carry most games. Like, you can see Chronix, for example, with the insane win rate. Like, I don't know what the win rate he has, but on his Smurf he has like 70%, and he has like really high win rate, and he just carries most games. ADCs are just so strong. Like, you will see what's the difference when you're losing a game. Is it ADC diff? Is it jungle diff? Is it mid diff? Most of the times, better bot lane wins. It's not necessary just ADC, it's like bot diff together, but most of the times, if you are fat ADC, you will win the game. Now we have Tristana, one of the strongest late game champions. Then we have Samira. Samira got a massive buff, but I'm not sure if she's as plus tier because she is a champion that needs the right team comp, and she is a close range champion that needs to jump in, want the reset and just wipe everyone. So I feel like she works the best with the playmaking, tanky support, but if you don't have the right team comp, I feel like let's say you don't have any tanks. I think Samira doesn't work if you don't have any tanks. Like, best case, you have like a Rakan, like a Nautilus or something that's initiating for you, and then Wukong initiates, they're low life, and they're jumping and boom, you're wiping everyone. But yeah, Samira's damage and her sustain are nuts right now. Draven in the early game, one of the, or if not the strongest early game ADC that can snowball super hard, but kind of lack of mobility overall, and shorter range than other ADCs, so he's easier to punish in team fights. Caitlyn overall a very solid ADC that has a lot of range and is just strong at every stage. Misfortune amazing in team fights and strong in the early game. One good ultimate from Misfortune can carry games. Saya overall a very solid ADC with good self-peel, and the ability, the feathers, when you can pull them in, you can turn a team fight around. Like, you're just shooting the feathers throughout the team fight, they're chasing, you pull the feathers back, you can just turn the team fight and just kill everyone with the feathers, feather burst damage. Neela is surprisingly very strong in the ADC position. I mean, obviously she's struggling in the early game, but if she gets into the mid-late game team fights, her burst damage, her sustain, her shielding are really good. Varus, a strong poking champion, super consistent, good crowd control with the ultimate as well. Then we have Karma and Lux Lux and Orianna that are great poking utility mages or APCs when you have the right team comp. Ashe, great crowd control playmaker, but doesn't do as much damage. Twitch, Jinx, Vayne and Zeri kind of fall in the same category, that they're pretty weak in the early game, so they usually tend to get bullied or getting dove. But in the late game, if you have an enchanter, they are extremely strong to carry the game, especially if they get the reset, like Jinx, Zeri getting a reset, they're just gonna run you down. Vayne getting massive nerfs as well, and if you play Vayne without dual Q and you don't have an enchanter that is gonna follow and buff you up all the time, I think she's just not as strong anymore, because her early game is just really weak right now. But yeah, Vayne plus Lulu or Vayne plus Yuumi in the right hands, obviously still gonna be very good. I'm not gonna deny that, but let's say solo queue. You play Vayne solo queue. The Enchanter, for example, is gonna be an idiot that is not gonna follow you, it's not gonna buff you. Or you have a tank that doesn't know what he's gonna do. Vayne, let's say, Vayne solo per se, I don't think she can carry that hard unless like you're really good and the opponents are really bad at the same time. And plus, you need to get into the late game with 3+ items. And then we have Akshan, kind of cheesy pick that wants to cheese in the early game. Same for Twisted Fate with his gold card. Maybe Twisted Fate with like a Nautilus or Alistair trying to cheese in the early game. Then we have Morgana and Brand, also APCs, but they are weaker in the early game than the others. Senna as ADC, also too scaling and too weak in comparison to other ADCs. Investment, and let's hop right into support. Let's move on to support. Pick of the patch is still gonna be Yuumi. You guys might be wondering why. You guys already know, Yuumi's a permaban. Yuumi, Soraka, Lulu are permabans because they are amazing enchanters. Yuumi can just buff the hyper carry, and the hyper carry is just run everyone down and use the game. It's that simple. Healing, mobility, poking damage. Then we have Pyke, amazing playmaker, high mobility, can roam around, catch people, and then with the reset mechanic on the ultimate, you have one good team fight, you're just one-shotting everyone, or you're just killing everyone with the ultimate, and then everyone in the team is getting inflated gold, because you're getting gold for the kill, and they're getting the same amount of gold. So if you're getting killed, then that's so much gold for the entire team. Lux, amazing poking, utility mage with great shielding as well. Soraka, permanent healing plus silence. Lulu is gonna enchant or buff the hyper carry that's just gonna run you down. Karma has amazing poking damage, then she has shielding as well, then she has the ultimate in teamfights as well. Now next one, Alistair. Now this is the tanky playmaking category, right? Alistair, AoE knockup plus damage reduction on ultimate. Leona, AoE stun plus very good to counter enchanters in the early game, jumping on them, very tanky. Lock stun as well. Thresh playmaking thanks to the hook, then Lantern to save them, Fling to pull them in, and ultimate to zone them with the slow. Gragas playmaking with the third ability and with the ultimate. Rakan has AoE taunt plus AoE knockup, and he can jump from miles away onto you and just catch you off guard. Nautilus has a hook, is very tanky thanks to the second ability, has AoE slow, then the passive is gonna root you, and the ultimate is gonna knock you up. So he has so much crowd control, and it's amazing frontline as well. Galio, good poking damage, is amazing counter to magic damage thanks to his magic damage reduction. On the second ability, AoE taunt, knockup plus ultimate to join teamfights. Janna is an amazing enchanter thanks to her peeling, the tornado for peeling, then the third ability for shield, second ability in the early game very good for poking, and then the ultimate for peeling as well and healing everyone. Nami is also good because she's an amazing peeling enchanter. She has bubble for catching people, or peeling for your ADC. Then second ability is gonna give healing and I think it was healing attack speed and can be poking tool as well. And then the ultimate as a really good playmaking tool, either to initiate or to disengage. I think usually you want to use it as a disengage tool, like everyone is getting knocked up while they're chasing your allies down. Now Morgana, I put Morgana up because she got better thanks to the second ability poke, getting buffed in the early game, and then she has the black shield as well, getting the cooldown reduced, only 30 seconds now. On top of that, she has the bind, very similar to her Lux, but obviously she's just a weaker Lux pretty much. Ashe as a support has pretty good playmaking potential as well, thanks to her ultimate spam. If you're just running a lot of ability haste, you can just spam the ultimate to catch people off guard. Sona has a lot of healing and shielding, late game scaling champion, so into the right team comp she can be very good in the mid and late game, but it's pretty weak in the early game. Ornn can be an amazing tanky frontliner playmaker. Braum into the right team comp against poking champions can be very good thanks to his shielding, and he also has the ultimate to knock people up. Senna into the right team comp can also be amazing thanks to her being a second carry with a lot of crowd control as well, and peeling. Swain on the other hand, I think he's very snowball reliant because he needs gold for items to be tanky. Because if he doesn't have items, he can't really tank as much. So he's kind of scaling. In the early game, he's pretty weak, but he's, I mean, if he's allowed to scale with the Road of Age and becomes tanky, has a lot of crowd control and can be a tanky beast. Same for Set and Shen, for example, that are really good tanks in the Baron lane, or they're super tanky, but as a support position, they're kind of low on gold, therefore they don't have that many items, and if they don't have that many items, they're not that tanky. But they have good playmaking potential. Shen with a taunt and Set with a third mid-tier ultimate. Brand can be a poking support, I guess, if you guys have a tanky composition and you guys want to have more damage. Seraphine weak in the early game, but the ultimate is good in team fights. Blitzcrank is a coin flip hooker, kinda. If you're a good Blitzcrank, you can catch people off guard and you can win the team fights by creating 5 versus 4 scenarios. But overall, I think he's very inconsistent a lot of times, and most Blitzcrank players are inters. And Amumu support, I think, can be viable thanks to his ultimate in team fights. But obviously, he's very weak in the early game and kind of one trick because without ultimate, he can't do that much. But yeah, that's great for the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Write down your feedback and your changes or other things you have in mind down below in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.